What's going on, everybody? You know how we do at this point, so let's just get into it. Yes, I apologize. I am in bed. My back hurts. It's like so, but I had to get this video out because it's kind of crazy. Um, so I feel like we need to like back it up a little bit because there's so much to talk about. There's still a debate. There's Project 2025. There's of course the election, but I feel like we need to have like a kind of Constitution American History 101 moment because I truly feel that like a lot of the reason why we're able to be manipulated and why there's so much misinformation out there is because we just don't have a real grasp on our history and like some of the basic facts. So, just starting with like the Constitution in itself, like a lot of people think that the Constitution is like ordained from God. It's like gospel, and like we have to just follow it to the T. And there are even people, mostly conservatives, that call themselves constitutionalists. You know what I'm saying? That the constitutionalists basically make up the majority of the Supreme Court. And if you follow some of the rulings that they've had, the methodology and reasoning behind those rulings are they state that because it's a constitutionalist, they're in the mind of, or what they think is in the mind of the authors of the Constitution and want to interpret it literally. So no changes, nothing, no context, no evolution, no anything. They just want to say like, this is what we believe the founding fathers were thinking at that moment. And therefore, this is what we're saying, even if it goes kind of against what all the modern symbols and everything in society wants. They're holding firm to the constitutionalist notion. And this, but what is a constitutionalist? I feel the fact that we don't know anything about the Constitution, about the founding fathers, about what they wrote is part of the reason that they can kind of corrupt what that actually means. So I just want to backtrack a little bit about the Constitution itself, about what it is. And it is foremost not a perfect document. And the founding fathers themselves admitted it. The founding, if we like, we just need to look at some of their other writings, you know what I'm saying? Like, and see what they actually said. They knew, pardon me, that the Constitution needed to be amended. They knew it needed lots of amendments. They knew that it needed to change and evolve with the nation. They knew it, they wrote it, all of it. But yet, somehow, constitutionalists are saying the opposite of that, that it needs to be finite and exactly in the moment in which those people wrote it, which is not what they even thought. You know, additionally, in terms of the Constitution and making amendments, like one thing that I think we harp on, which they aren't a constitutionalist about, is like initially you could only be a land owning white male and vote. Now, granted, on its face, that's just like, that's patriarchal, it's sexist, it's racist, it's classist, you know, all those ists that we don't like. And I think a lot of us just leave it there. But we need to look at that a little further. Also, in addition to white landowning men were also the only people to be educated and the only people that had an actual skin in the game for the country. So the founding fathers wanted people that actually cared about the nation to vote, that would actually like either benefit or suffer if the nation failed. So, and they wanted people that weren't easily corrupted and they were smart and they knew about political issues. So that was also equally a main reason why they wanted those people to vote, because they didn't want people that were easily corrupted, people that really weren't educated about the issues, people that could be bribed and manipulated. Like, you can't vote if you're completely ignorant. You know what I'm saying? Like, it actually makes things worse. And that's what the founding fathers were really thinking about it in that way, to really just make sure that the people that were voting were informed and also had a stake in the success of the nation. And another thing that I think is completely lost now is like, we have to look at how many times they use the word virtue and honor. That is something that is completely lost in our interpretation today. They understood that you had to be a good person. You had to not be looking out for yourself, like virtuous. You know what I'm saying? It's like to be selfless, to think of the country first and not you. And we have completely flipped that. as in the old days, you know what I'm saying? Like the country used to be more about virtues and pillars of all this things like honor and honesty and gratitude, and all those things are supposed to be in all the lawmaking and edicts of the nation. So the president, fast forward to today, like they don't expect the president to be just partying at his friends and, finding every loophole to do what they do and steal secrets. And like they just couldn't imagine that a person would put themselves over country like that, to the point where they didn't legislate it. Like they just assumed that like people were always going to be looking out for the greater good of America, and they couldn't possibly fathom that like it was going to spin to the point where they weren't going to think about the rights of all and to just minimize it into thinking about the rights of the individual. So it's like that is lost, and now it's like a very litigious thing where it's like, okay, they didn't say this specifically, so let's find this nuance. It's almost like a contract law, right? It's like how you look at your cell phone contracts and your credit card contracts and your mortgages, the 85 pages of things you have to sign, and it has to say this specifically. Like they're now looking at the Constitution like that, when it wasn't designed to be looked like that. It was actually designed to be looked at with a virtuous eye, to be edited and changed, to evolve with the things of the time. And you have people now literally converting what a constitutionalist means to making it mean the opposite of what it actually means. Like, and that's something that the conservative movement is doing. Like, look at faith, look at Christianity. You have the face of Christianity. So conservative Christians are kind of the face of Christianity, sadly. When people think of Christians, they really think of that. And it couldn't be less like a Christian, right? So you have the head of the conservative movement party being Donald Trump, who literally has broken every commandment that could possibly be. He is not a Christian. He can't even name a Bible verse. He holds the Bible upside down. He's selling them with the Constitution in them. Like, what? Like, we literally, if you read anything that Jesus wrote, he is like not that. But yet he is the leader of the party that claims to be Christians. So it's like, it's what they do. It's like they take something that like in name is very honorable and virtuous, like Christianity and constitutionalists, but they've just corrupted it and actually flipped it all around in its face to make it mean the exact opposite of what it's supposed to mean. And if you want a today story about how crazy it is, this conservative constitutionalist people in Supreme Court actually just gave the president immunity, which is basically being a king. Now, if you know anything about American history, I hope this is not something that like they're not teaching now. We left a monarchy. We left a monarchy. And the founding of America was literally in retaliation of a king. So there couldn't be anything less constitutionalist than giving the executive branch immunity. There couldn't be anything that would be further from the minds of the founding fathers. If you want to look at the documents back then, all their conversations and arguments, which I really encourage people to do, like they almost didn't even want to have an executive branch. They wanted to have maybe several presidents and things of that nature. They were terrified of how one person could consolidate power. They were literally that was the one thing they did not want. And now we have this conservative constitutionalist branch of the Supreme Court claiming that that is their interpretation. And that's what the founding fathers were doing. Like, what the actual fuck? And I think the only way that they can do this is if those people that actually know better, ignorance is the only way it can happen. It's the only way, and they're playing on our ignorance. They're playing on our laziness, that they can just say what stuff is. And even though the writings of it, even though the 10 Commandments, what Jesus says is right there, you can still uplift the person that does the opposite of that and say they're Jesus. Even though the writings of the founding fathers and the Constitution are right there and what they want, we can say that these people that are doing the opposite are the arbiters of the Constitution and what the merits are. And it's our fault for letting it occur. So it's like, it's really about empowering people with information and getting thoughts out there, because they can only do it if we allow them. And so we need to empower ourselves with information and actually have that conversation. So hopefully, this picked up a couple things and just made you actually go and research it, like read what the founding fathers said. Like, look at George Washington. George Washington could have easily become the king of America. Easily come the king of America. He won the war. He was the first president, all this stuff. He set term limits. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't want anything that even resembles a monarchy or king. We have to continue this thing forward. That's what the spirit of America was. But yet that is completely lost. And so now we have a person like Donald Trump who's threatening to use the government to stay in power, to overturn elections. It's the opposite. So hopefully this opens some minds. And until next time.